The 10th National Assembly, what is the assessment under Akpabio? Are they playing their role effectively the way they should?
It's a band of choristers. Their real name is Emilokan Choristers. But what I used to hear them sing is that on your dollar we shall stand, on your dollar we shall stand, on your dollar, and they will be so excited.
Solomon Dalung is a Nigerian lawyer, academic, and politician. It's been 26 years since 1999, and many political watchers insist that our democracy is now being threatened more than ever before. How did we get here?
Our democracy is under siege. So for those who are maybe using the concept of threaten, I think they're just being mild with words. We got here because, one, of the prolonged history of a military interregnum, which distorted completely the initial concept of the struggle for democracy, which was initiated by the Nigerian Youth Movement as a pre-independent struggle organization that culminated into so many political parties which got independence for Nigeria. So the distortion in 1966, which introduced a unitarist form of administration against the background of the Lancaster Consensus, where Nigerians went to Lancaster and agreed on the form of federalism, which was more or less strong federating units with a loose central government. Now that had been reversed since the military came in, because the military is an authoritarian rule. So it wanted control of the entire country. So it had to come up with that. And it kept adjusting it to 1999. So what we have in 1999 is the military concept of federalism. Well, a very, very strong center, a powerful president, and weak subnational governments. So it is as a result of now testing or experimenting this that resulted into where we are now, because we are now at a stage of maybe imperial monarchy, where elections may not be the process with which you can determine leaders in the future, the way we are going.
And for you, if you look at it generally, how can we extricate ourselves from this threat to our democracy now?
It's more or less not an issue of individuals, but looking at the institutions that played key roles in bringing us here. Under party democracy like the one we practice, the political parties are responsible for the initiation of policies, promoting the policies, marketing them to Nigerians, to key into it, and then elect such political parties into government. Now the government is supposed to be run based on the manifestos of the political party. But what we have been having since 1999 is the rule of men. It's not even the rule of law, but it's the rule of men. So every president sees himself as a sovereign. But in constitutional democracy, the people are the sovereign. So this relocation of sovereignty from the people to political entities that hold executive powers is basically responsible. Individuals do not have any role to play because individuals who share contrary opinions are classified as dissidents, and state powers are mobilized to liquidate them, first targeting the economic base. If they cannot compromise and surrender, then ultimately they lose their lives. So we've lost great men who challenge status quo. The likes of Harry Marshall, the likes of Bola Ige, who paid supreme prices. Under this our democracy. And so many others that were shot in an up till now unidentified state murder. So,
All right, Honorable Minister, given your background as a lawyer and as well as a political watcher, what was your reaction when President Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers State and, of course, suspended the governor, citing breakdown of law and order?
well, I informed Nigerians that we are gradually advancing speedily into monarchy. But the president, as it is, has introduced diarchy. Because we're not under democracy, we're under diarchy. You have some parts of Nigeria governed by democracy, and then you have some part governed by self-appointed dictators who had no business of being there. So the constitution was circumvented, and some trumped up security threats were manufactured just to accommodate the rejection of godfatherism, because the people of Rivers State rejected godfatherism. And that was what offended the federal government. Because, the godson of the president, who is the minister of the FCT, actually lost almost all his investment in Rivers with the rejection of godfatherism by the people. So the governor had to be whipped into order. And so you shove him aside and put the resources of the state and the government at the disposal of an imposter, designated as a sole administrator. And the sole administrator, shamefully, had gone to present a budget. That same imposter had conducted elections. Yeah, how can you give what you do not have? It's an established legal principle. You cannot give what you do not have. The man has no relationship with democracy. So how can he donate democracy? Rivers State, I'm not a prophet, but Rivers State is not going to recover from this attack and the introduction of this ignoble democratic tradition now, where the sole administrator has gone to conduct local government elections. And the godson of the president is in PDP and is also in APC. Because when he stands, you see the broom here and the umbrella on the other side. So the election is the rainbow of his personality now. So the governor will now come in. They will return him to power. So he has a very hostile House of Assembly that was PDP, and in the midnight metamorphosed into APC. Now they have also succeeded in putting up the local administration in the hands of APC. All this is struggle for the huge revenues of the people of Rivers. It's not about the well-being of the people. I've been to Port Harcourt a couple of times under this same state of emergency, but there has been no evidence of any threat. I even go to go out in the night to attend parties to test whether there was indeed some threat. I didn't even hear a gunshot for one day. So Port Harcourt is even more peaceful than Zamfara, than Kebbi, than Katsina, than Sokoto, than Kaduna, than Benue, than Plateau. Where every week the population is mere statistics. So the whole thing about this state of emergency is trying to rescue a godson from disgrace.
All right, we talked about the local government elections. It's been conducted, and then APC is said to have won 20, PDP to have won 3, yet Rivers State is supposed to be a PDP-dominated state. The FCT minister is said to be in PDP, and yet APC swept the whole Rivers. How do you see the whole election? Because a lot of people have described it in different terms. For you, how do you see it?
I am not surprised. Not surprised. You see, there is an adage in Hausa that where you climb, that's where you descend. Now, let's look at the legal instrument that constituted that illegitimate regime called the sole administrator. In Rivers, it was in complete violation of the 1999 Constitution. Complete. The Constitution empowers the president based on the receipt of some intelligence security report to take action to save the country. And about 5 conditions were listed under Section 205. Now, none of those conditions were met, even though it's an exercise of discretion, which the court has held that once a law confers power to exercise a discretion, it cannot be challenged. Nonetheless, the procedure outlined by the Constitution was not followed. The president was supposed to put before the National Assembly a proclamation for endorsement before he will constitute a government. But it was the other way around. While the proclamation was pending before the National Assembly, we saw the president with some of his family members in a cubicle in the villa inaugurating the sole administrator. So the president was quite sure that the National Assembly was his own and they will never disagree with him. So the president behaved like Mahmoud, Professor Mahmoud, who adjourned the coalition of results for 10 o'clock, but so met with the angel of hell around 4 a.m., who advised him to declare results. So he assembled those who were around and declared results. And immediately he finished, he said, anybody who disagrees, go to court. Which is a confirmation of the East African adage that if a thief asks you to go to court, he is sure that the judge is his brother. So the president knew that even if anything will happen, whether there were protests, there were anything, he was quite sure that the National Assembly was his. And they actually behaved true to type. So in the circumstance, will we expect anything different? My only prayers is that before the sole administrator leave, we may still have people called citizens of Rivers State. Because we may end up with a situation where if they are not certain of the control, they will still take steps maybe to declare them as citizens of any neighboring country.
The 10th National Assembly, what is the assessment under Akpabio? Are they playing their role effectively the way they should?
It's a band of choristers. Their real name is Emilokan Choristers, the National Assembly. They are Emilokan Choristers. And I'm happy that they do not pretend. No, the National Assembly does not pretend. This 10-1. Once they see their grandfather walking into the hollow chambers, they will be on their feet and they will start singing. But I have had problem with Nigerians because what my ear used to hear them sing, Nigerians said it's not correct. And I don't know whether you will also have them differently. But what I used to hear them sing is that on your dollar we shall stand. On your dollar we shall stand. On your dollar. And they will be so excited. In fact, the type of excitement they do exhibit, I mean, we'll need a psychologist to examine it. So, the National Assembly is not pretending. They are Emilokan Choristers. And they have not done anything less than that. Anything from the executive to the National Assembly is even approved before it is conceived.
And if you had to rate them, how would you rate them?
I will rate them -10.
Over 100.
-10 over 100.
So you don't think they've done anything that aligns with what their roles are supposed to be in terms of lawmaking?
Everything they have done is in their own personal interest. They have not done anything in the interest of the country. I'm not saying it. Unless they come up. Even if you pick all those that bills, we can still pigeonhole them. There's none that you can use the Constitution to measure it. I mean, Chapter 2 of the Constitution says the entire essence of government is the well-being of citizens. All the laws they have made are tax laws that strangulate Nigerians. By May 2026, Nigerians are going to pay 5% on
Tax on fuel.
on every liter of fuel. So it's going to alter the economic chemistry. It's going to unleash torrents of hardship.
So why are Nigerians not seeing this or reacting to this? This 5%, it takes effect from January next year. So what, is it that Nigerians are not aware, or they are playing blind, or they are waiting till that time?
I think as a revolutionary politician and an activist, the country, the citizens are traumatized. They least expected this. You see, what happened on the 29th of May 2023 was an automatic release of a trauma on the people. And so it brought almost everybody down. Nigerians suffered mental, physical, and social calamity. So they have not been able to recover from it. This is, based on my knowledge of Nigerians, this is my opinion of what has brought us here. Now, when the people mobilize to react in the bad governance protests, where some of us were very, very active in mobilization, the government brought out security and killed many Nigerians and arrested school children and detained them as terrorists who were funded by an enemy foreign nation. The National Security Advisor went to the National Council of State to deceive elder statesmen that government succeeded in arresting terrorists. So we were all waiting for the terrorists. We, in revolutionary politics, knew that there was no single terrorist arrested. while we were waiting for this national security advisor terrorists, we saw underage, malnourished school children who had been starved for over 3 months. They couldn't stand, paraded in court. Shamefully, as it were, they came up trying to manage the situation, but it was bad. So when you take all this, the increase, the withdrawal of fuel subsidy and its attendant consequences, the increase in electricity, which has direct bearing on microeconomies. You take the increase in data charges and you look at the lackadaisical security policy on the ground, where terrorists will come to negotiation with the government bearing their arms while the security bear arms. And after the negotiation, the terrorists walk back to their dens just in the evening to sack villages and mop up citizens into their custody. So it is so much on Nigerians, even some of us that are still talking. It is the grace of Almighty God that is sustaining us. Otherwise, the effect is so massive on the citizens and they cannot bear.
All right, sir. I know you are a politician and a very active one. And I also know that you were a very vocal member of the All Progressive Party. Much later, towards 2023, we heard you have moved to the SDP. Now let's hear from you. Where are you?
Well, I'm part of the coalition. Just to answer you very brief, I'm part of the coalition.
Okay. Since you are part of the coalition, that's good. The other day, the FCT minister, Wike, dismissed the coalition, the ADC, saying that they are just a gathering of people who have failed in their political life, and that by 2027, that they will be rendered irrelevant, all of them. What's your take on that comment?
Well, you see, the FCT minister, even though a lawyer, is always very reckless with his utterances. I would have answered him, but this was the same person who said APC is a cancer. The same person said he will never leave PDP. If he leaves PDP, God should kill him. And the same person that is saying this now is the ones looking at some people and said they will render them irrelevant. You know, from his antecedents, we will know the type of person, the personality he is. So I don't need to waste this energy in this well-prepared interview to concentrate on somebody who has no modicum of credibility to reply. Why should I reply him? He should go and deal with the statement he made. APC cancer. I will not leave PDP.
But he can also tell you he has not left the PDP. He still attends their meeting. He still convenes the meeting of the PDP.
No, he has not left the PDP, except that he is now, he has developed an incongruous political concept. He is PDP APC, which is what we are dealing with.
In the light of all of this, do you see the possibility of dislodging President Tinubu in 2027?
You know, if you want to assess the efficacy of a political movement, don't look at the tsunami enveloping, but gauge the body language of the government. You will know what will happen to them. I'm a practical politician. I don't know why my mouth is like the mouth of a prophet, but it's very toxic. I say things and they happen. Many things that I've said to the best of my memory have not failed. If the opposition, the coalition should be dismissed as they are trying to make Nigerians believe. In the last 48 hours, they have sponsored talks to attack the ADC personalities in 3 states. Even the third attack was misconceived. But because the issues they were discussing there, and there were high concentration of people who seems to look like having sympathy for the ADC, it was attacked. In Katsina, that's the latest. Rufai was attacked. Malami was attacked. They have also gone to attack the elders who were gathering in Katsina to help them solve the problem of insecurity. So from these just 3, you will be able to say conclusively whether by May 29 or earlier than then some of them should escape into Europe or America or Asia and allow their deputies to hand over or the chief of staff to hand over. Their behavior. So if the coalition is to be dismissed, why are you threatened by the mere fact that when you see them pass, you start shivering? The coalition is a reality. It's a tsunami. Only God knows what will happen.
The people have said, given the by-elections that we've had, the ADC has not done pretty well and has not shown any impact that they are capable of dislodging President Tinubu.
No, based on our assessment of the by-election, we were quite comfortable. For us, it was a litmus test. The coalition is barely 2 months, meaning that even the candidates that were fielded were not fielded by the coalition, but by the parties in the coalition. And if the coalition could still manage in 2 months to roll out the type of crowd you see turning out for campaigns, well, you should know that something very serious is in the offing. Even 2 months, we can achieve that. Then you be rest assured that the future is pregnant. Therefore, we are not bothered at all. You see, the coalition is not looking at the individual. The coalition is only holding the APC government accountable. That's why we have not been profiling them. If you listen to our speeches, our statements, we address issues. We are talking about, the hunger in the land. We are talking about the stagnated economy. We are talking about the debt burden. If President Muhammadu Buhari, may so rest in perfect peace, whom they have demonized so much as leaving the heritage of this crisis for them, left the debt burden in 8 years at 89 trillion. He made it around 40 something. He left it at 89. In 2 years, we have 189 trillion. Yet, there is nothing to show on the ground. President Muhammadu Buhari, they are demonizing. We can still say, oh, he constructed road from here to Makodi to Enugu. We can still say, oh, he constructed the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. We can still say he built the notorious Second Naija Bridge. We can still say, oh, he brought the train back again. And we still have at least some old Mangum Park cargoes moving from Abuja to Kaduna, moving at the snail speed. No, but of course he did that in their 2 years. Because Buhari achieved some of these things in 2 years. In 2 years. The international wing of Motara of Naija Security Airport here in Abuja was completed by Buhari and Commission. Can they show any single project left for them by Buhari that they have concluded? That is no. So we are talking about issues, not about personality.
All right. A lot of people have argued that Nigerians' docility has encouraged our politicians and made Nigeria a political haven. How can we prevent another possible election manipulation in 2027?
Before the coalition, the first thing we did was to commission a survey to be conducted and review all the elections from 1999 till but the last by-election. So we have enough data we are processing of how elections are manipulated, how elections are conducted, and how they are won and lost. We have enough data. We have enough data about the role of all election managers, which we are studying. This data is going to provide us with sufficient knowledge of how we can plan to tackle any electoral malpractices in 2027. So that is still part of the strategy of the coalition. We are working very, very hard on that. And we have sufficient data we're dealing with, handled by experts. So we don't want a situation where Nigerians will be mobilized like 2023 for them just to swallow this bitter pill of a technical glitch.
Let's look at have your assessment of the INEC chairman's tenure and INEC in general as we approach 2027. A lot of people believe that the 2023 elections, the whole INEC and of course the judiciary responsible for the outcome of the general election.
Well, this very chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud, has actually not done well. He has done poorly because at a point in time, he earned the confidence of Nigerians, and then suddenly he squandered it, like 2023. The investment INEC put in mobilizing Nigerians and the confidence of Nigerians, both at home and in diaspora, and the participation was massive. You see, the statistics they released as a result of the 2023 election does not at all resemble 30% of the election. Because if over 80 million Nigerians collected their PVC, and we have records of, mass movement of Nigerians in diaspora coming home to vote, and there are physical and empirical evidence, like in my polling unit, in the whole of my political career, I have never witnessed the number of people that turned out in 2023 to vote. That number had never, in fact, it tripled the number of people that come out. So it's just impossible to accept the figures they have rolled out. He would have been one of the heroes of our democracy, but he squandered it in 2023. And all those bearing the name Mahmoud in future in Nigeria may need explanation to escape the anger of Nigerians. He has left for that family a heritage of bad legacy that his children and great-grandchildren will live with, because Nigerians will always say Mahmoud was the very person who midwifed Nigerian democracy into the abyss.
What of the judiciary? What's the assessment of the judiciary on the election?
You know, judicial decisions are laws, and they set directions for the people. After the Supreme Court judgment on the presidential election, I interpreted it and advised Nigerians, but they did not listen to me. Because the impact of that judgment of the Supreme Court is that don't believe INEC. That's the summary of the judgment. Don't believe INEC. Don't trust INEC. Because if INEC tells you that this is the rules of election, don't believe them. Because if they wake up anytime and change the rules, we are with them. So if that's the judicial position, it means that people should go and campaign in INEC. You don't need to go on rallies. All rallies should take place in the offices of INEC, so that when you please INEC, they will appoint a returning officer with a clear direction to declare you winner. It's not about the votes. Because if the court is saying bylaws made by INEC, by INEC cannot be credible, and they cannot be held accountable for even changing the rules midway, what more is left of the credibility of INEC? The decision of the Supreme Court was a vote of no confidence on INEC. Because once the rules of an institution or the power of lawmaking, of a lawmaking body, a quasi-lawmaking body, a cultural lawmaking body, the credibility is challenged, there is nothing left of that institution. There is nothing INEC should say after that judgment that is believed. Even the declaration of result based on that decision of the Supreme Court should not be accepted or believed. Because the Supreme Court said there are rules, they can make it. If Mahmoud have bad dreams, he declare results, he can change the rules, and that you cannot hold them accountable. Then what is left of our democracy? So the judiciary has set a path of anarchy. Those decisions, whatever it is, this is my understanding of it, because you cannot convince me that a law-making agency will not obey its own rules, but yet will expect other people to obey. So this is the crisis. So the judiciary as it stands today is the last hope of rich politicians and not common man. The judiciary is the nightmare of the common man and the last hope of money packs.
Honorable Minister, of course, we can't have you and not take to at least hear a word from you on sports, because you've been there. A lot of changes have happened since you visited that place. One of them is returning to National Sports Commission. And then some of the persons there now, you've dealt with them at one point or the other. As presently constituted, we are told the president has so much interest in sports and everything, both from the appointments of those managing it now and the change from Ministry of Youth and Sports Development to National Sports Commission. Do you think there is a difference, and do you think there is hope for us?
In trying to prophesize hope, you have to adopt the Marxian theory of reviewing history and analyzing the present to predict the future. I do know as a fact that since I left in 2019, Nigerian sports had gone down completely. They have never smelled where the World Cup is. Just smelling it. And there is no hope. I'm not a prophet of them. I would have loved my country. There is no hope they will even smell it this time. Because they are already at the bottom of the table. So if you want to know whether all is well with sports, you go and take my handing over notes. I left Nigeria champion of 10 African champion in 10 sports. I left unbeatable world records that are nowhere to be found. Nigeria maintained consistently world championship in Scrabble. I don't know whether we are there. And they won under my watch. When I became a minister, the only sport in Nigeria that was on was the female football. And they continued and sustained the championship under my watch until I left. I added 9 additional sports, including cricket, which was nowhere. Cricket became African champion and went to the World Cup. The Tigress left an unbeatable world record in Spain World Cup, where they became the first African country to qualify to quarterfinals in 100 years. They moved their ranking from number 32 in the world to number 8. Demolition. Greece, Turkey, Argentina. They were heading to teach the Americans a lesson before the whole thing turned topsy-turvy. I left sports with very, very giant records. Nigeria was everywhere in sports when I left in 2019. This same Tigress, they qualified for their World Cup before I left office. They were banned. When it was time for them to go to World Cup, they were banned. And they were banned because when they made that world record in Spain, I approached the president who approved 1 billion naira for them so that to compensate what they did for the country. The monies were not ready before I left office. They were released in August 2019. And the girls were not paid for over 2 years. And when they started complaining, the sitting minister, who is now the SA to the president, banned Nigeria, and our qualification was taken and given to Senegal. Thank God the girls are still coming up. They have won the African Championship, and of course the president has tried to compensate for the injustice wreaked on the team, even though the beneficiaries are not the same. But it's compensation. Why I'm not quite worried about the money lavished on them is because they deserve it. These are people that this same Nigerian state had humiliated and maltreated. These young girls from the scratch brought to women basketball to world standard. And for somebody just because he could not be able to pay them their money and they complained, they were banned. Federal government did not do anything about that. So if you want to know the health of sports, the changes, to me, having the National Sports Commission back is a healthy development. But abolishing the Ministry of Sports is one of the worst decisions this government has done. Sports is diplomacy, and sports is international diplomacy. The Minister of Sports sits on the bodies of so many international agencies as a minister. The Minister of Sports speaks on the policies of sports in the cabinet. As it is now, sports have no representation in the cabinet. While the youth have, sport doesn't have. And sports is the greatest provider for quick employment and wealth for the youth. Sport is a multi-trillion-dollar enterprise. It is only sports that can create a billionaire in six months. 6 months. And this is the same industry that has no representation in the council. The chairman of the National Sports Commission is not a cabinet member. He's not. You can only be a member of the cabinet if you pass through the tripartite process. You are nominated, screened, and appointed. The chairman of the National Sports Commission walked up and had his name announced, and he resumed job. He cannot exercise the powers of a minister. He cannot even sit at international bodies where we have the status to speak for Nigeria. He can't. Can only go there on a representative basis. And when ministers of sports are meeting, he cannot go. Can't sit there. This is the truth. He can't sit there. I chaired the African Sports Ministers Forum to 2019. So I know the politics, the global politics of that office. So it's a worst decision. And I think the president should return the ministry, so that the sports can have a voice. The chairman of the National Sports Commission can only have to go through so many routes, like a bandit route, to get the president. You have to go Irigimarol. When I was a minister of Youth and Sports Development, the ministry, which was later handed over to 3 ministers who could not manage. And it's because of the inability of 3 ministers to manage our ministry that President Tinubu scrapped sport. Because there were 3 ministers there. That same office that I held. And I think what has made sports to go down is Nigerian media. When I was appointed, the Nigerian media and press screen every activity. Even if I laughed in the public, they screen it. So is this screening by the Nigerian media that put me on my toes? Of course, it could be that they were angry with my khaki dress, because they expected me to have one suit and look like how they think ministers of sports should look. But I knew sports very well. When I was appointed, I knew sports is like Gaza. Hamas are there. The Hezbollah are there. The Houthis are firing missiles outside. They are there. Israel, they're there. So if I want to survive, I will have to dress like a refugee. I will have to dress like a refugee in Gaza so that I can carry a pan and be begging for food to survive. And because I was wearing khaki, they underestimated my capabilities. And that was what they had, that trouble they had with me. Because every evil they were planning it even in my presence, assuming that what did he know? But I went to sports with the training, political training given to me by my mentor, Chief Solomon Lal. Chief Solomon Lal told me, one of the last models he gave me before he passed on, he said, if you go to the community of corn people, play the fool. So I asked him, I said, why must I play the fool? And he said, no. If you exhibit smartness, you will not survive. Because they are corn people. But if you play the fool, in your presence, they will contrive plan to eliminate you, and they will assume you don't know, and you will never be killed. So that was how I survived sports. Every evil plan, they do it, they assume that Solomon Dalung doesn't know anything. But I was looking at them as fools, because you can't tell me that somebody who has a master's in law degree, who was a lecturer, and my students are now senior advocates of Nigeria, who was a chairman of a local government, an appointed minister, and he will assume that because, oh, he looks humble, then he doesn't know anything. I think that was the greatest undoing. The last thing about the bad relationship is that I believe in accountability and transparency. I also recognize that human beings have their shortcomings, so I always create room as a leader to accommodate human shortcomings. But I don't compromise accountability. Even in the course of your accountability and there are expressed human shortcomings, I can tolerate it. But for you to blatantly boldface and say, no, you can go to the president and collect billions for us, but you cannot ask us to account. That was the beginning of the trouble. Not that I hate anybody, no, they are very wonderful and amazing personalities. But I think this tradition of using ministers to collect money for them that they will not account is what created the problem. And sports is the only ministry that the actors pray and fast for failures more than success. Because in sports, if you are going for an international competition, there is tripartite funding. If you are going for World Cup, FIFA will provide funds for the training and competition. The state governments and private sector will provide funds. And then the federation will write the federal government. So there are 3 budgets, and all will be funded. All. There is no international competition that is not funded by the organizing committee. There's none, even Olympics. But all these funds coming from outside drops quietly into the pockets of the federation leaders. If you ask question, it's interference. So these were some of the things that Solomon Dalung was asking questions, and the media was used as a weapon to scrutinize. So as they were scrutinizing, they thought I was going to be bitter. No, as a Democrat, what they did was what helped me to succeed. So I give kudos and send the greatest appreciation to the Nigerian media for on a mischief of trying to bring me down, and they set me on the path of greatness. Let them continue with every leader. Nigeria will be great.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We appreciate you for sparing your time to be our guest on this very, very exciting and incisive interview with Symfoni. It's a pleasure having you, sir.
Thank you very much. When you have the opportunity and if there are issues, knock on my door.
Thank you very much. We always call on your door, sir.